Hello and welcome to the Trade Property Power Hour. I'm glad everyone's tuned in for episode 2 because episode 1 absolutely blew up. So looking forward to spending this time with new and experienced property investors to kind of understand what's going on in the market at the moment through various market trends, but also how we can look to elevate our current game. Okay, so my name's Tom. I'm joined here with my business partner and co-presenter of the Trade Property Power Hour, Mr. Kyle Huckabee.
How we doing, Tom?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Good.
How's things been going at the minute? Do you want to intro us in and talk about what's been going on, in our current investments at the moment?
Yeah, so we've got so much stuff going on at the moment. It is literally non-stop. Obviously, we have recently launched the Trade Property Education platform. We've had absolute great success just off the back of our first training day. Mm-hmm. We've had so much success. People are sending us deals over. We've actually got a couple of people who have followed through and purchased some properties. So we're really looking forward to going over and filming some content through there and with them.
Yeah, that's been really good, to be fair. It was a fantastic 2-day accelerator where we had various different guest speakers that are highly sought after in their own profession. Mm-hmm. We had UT come down. He's done, millions of pounds worth of developments. How many projects he got on at the minute? About 9?
I think he's got 9. Yeah,
nine
ground
current
developments.
Yeah, that's absolutely mental.
Mixed between high-end residential properties and blocks of apartments. So he's really, really knowledgeable. I'm looking forward to having him back.
Yeah, it was great to have him down, to be fair. It was brilliant to share his experience to everybody else. But everyone just seemed to have just gelled and got on and really understood what it is that we were telling them. Because we went through the foundations of property investment. So all the little bits and bobs you need to know about before you can even enter into the strategies. Then we went into rent to rent. So, how we can go in, acquire a property with a low startup cost with a turnaround of like 2 to 4 weeks. Then we obviously discussed within the rent to rent how we can scale it up to 6 figures and beyond, and why it's a very good strategy to serve a specific purpose. Then we covered deal selling, so basically getting paid for the deals that you don't want. What does that look like? How do we package them up? How do we sell them? What does the process look like? And how do you do it, really? Because it's a very, very good strategy in its own right, because as property entrepreneurs, what we don't want to be doing is when deals are coming through from various different letting agents to say, no, I don't want that, because it might not be right for you, but that's 100% going to be right for somebody else. So why not package it up and try and sell it for 3-5 grand? However it is that whatever the deal looks like, really. So it's always a little bit of a good strategy to have in your pocket.
It's the best one to start with. We talk about it all the time, how it is the foundation to property investing. If you can spot, package and secure deals, you're going to be successful in this industry because it gives you transferable skills. It shows you how to negotiate, how to run the numbers, how to actually find and acquire the deals. So it's a great one to start off with if you have little to no money. You just need the education and you just need to be able to network, because if you can put yourself in the room with high net worth individuals and you know how to present yourself and how to communicate properly and how to be perceived as a professional, it's a great way to start, and it's a great way to build a large amount of cash up.
Yeah, that's exactly how we started, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Finding the investors, finding the deals, and if I'm being honest with you, we got really, really good at it, and that's kind of exactly like you've just said. Really, that was the foundation for us to really be able to go out and find the deals and negotiate on them. It's kind of been that foundation to the success that we've had throughout the industry so far. So I completely agree with what you're saying. But with your deal sourcing, you can be making so much money. I remember, I think it was March. I can't remember the year. It was some time ago. But this is just obviously a good idea. In the opening week of March, I think we'd sold £18,000 worth of deals in the first week. So you can really make some serious money without even, owning the property yourself.
Fairly sure they were all rent-to-rent deals as well.
They're all rent-to-rent deals, yeah.
And these deals are super easy to secure, super easy to sell, and they have a quick turnaround time. It's not like we're waiting for solicitors months and months on end and being pushed back and having delays. The thing is, with rent-to-rents, it's quick, easy, and high cash flowing. So it's a great way to start. But just off the back of that, we also went through the BRR strategy, buy, refurbish, refinance, rent, repeat. Went through the ins and outs, the ups and downs of the BRR strategy, how investors can actually go about securing deals and locking them in for themselves and actually packaging and selling them. And then we finish the day off with the lease option agreement strategy, an absolute fantastic strategy, easily the best one to have in your toolbox. So I think we can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. Well, just give an overview of lease option, really.
So essentially, with a lease option, we're looking to, it's very, very similar to rent to rent, okay? So we're looking to rent a property, but we've just got the option to purchase it at the end, okay? So we agree a sale price at the beginning, we lease it for a duration of time, and then we can exercise our option to purchase the property. Now, there's a strategy behind it on how we can actually save up the profits and acquire the house for little to no money. So that's a great strategy for actually building generational wealth and actually adding to your portfolio with little to no money.
Yeah, I mean, typically the option fees are sitting around £1. So if you look at the money you've had to spend to go and acquire that property, it's only cost you £1. I know someone in the industry, he did about 18 in 1 month. Cost him less to take his family out to dinner than to buy, 18 houses. Absolutely mental. But I mean, lease options currently a strategy that we're actually doing at the moment. I mean, I know I asked you earlier about what it is that we're currently doing at the minute. Lease options something we're very heavily focused on. I think for us at the moment, if anyone doesn't really understand how this side of it works, is there's a lot of accommodation that's being provided for a lot of asylum seekers or illegal immigrants that are coming over the channel. But they're being put up in hotels. A lot of you guys will already probably understand this. Some of you might not be too happy because it might be down the road to you. But there's a lot that's being paid out. I think the government are paying out about £8 million a day to actually fund this and keep it going and making it work. So we kind of looked at it and thought, right, well, we're already in social housing, but how can we really look to elevate this at the moment? And we thought, well, if the government are paying out that amount of money, there's surely got to be a slice of the pie that we can tap into. And that's exactly what we're doing now. So we've gained a contract to go and house these guys, but we have to have them inside hotels. So we are currently looking at scaling up via hotels at the moment. We're currently negotiating on a couple at the moment, doing the lease option strategy. So if we are successful in the negotiations, which, touch wood, everything is going okay so far, then we'll be able to go and acquire our first hotel for just £1. Now, I know for some guys out there that we're listening thinking, well, how the hell are you doing that? Like Carl mentioned, there is a whole strategy behind it and how you do it. So if lease option is something you specifically want to learn, then we have got the Trade Property Education platform where we can go and teach you the ins and outs that everything is to do around lease option and the other strategies. But yeah, so in regards to us at the moment, we have been extremely busy looking at a number of properties at the moment that are quite juicy. But mainly for us at the moment, it's now elevating the social housing gain within hotels pretty much. So we're scaling up via that way,
as well as still acquiring properties for the handful of investors that we do now work with.
Yeah.
We're actually looking at a few BRR projects in Leicester. We did cast our eyes over a development project. However,
that was nice. That was
very nice.
That was nice.
It was it's a recently new investor that's come on board, and he wants to start off with something a little bit smaller, which is understandable.
I get that, yeah.
However, we are looking to acquire properties for him very, very shortly.
Let me just quickly ask you guys, actually. So this development deal that Carl just mentioned, so long story short, it's for about 9 houses. The developer's coming in and done 90% of the work, so it's pretty much there. They've gone broke. It needs about £400,000 going into it, where you'll be able to pull out. It's got a GDV of about 4.5 million. What a deal. I mean,
amazing
how many
deal.
of you guys would actually, consider doing something like that? But that's just one of the many deals that, fortunately, we get sent over that's kind of off market, which is great. So I'm sure you can imagine there was many sleepless nights thinking, well, there's a GDV of 4.5 million. How can we go about acquiring this?
That's right. But before we even get started, I know we said in the last podcast that we wanted to go over changes in the October budget that have come in. Now, to our surprise and our amazement, they're not that bad. However, some of the parts are, but for us and for property investors, I don't think it's as bad as we originally anticipated. I mean, the main one is stamp duty changing from 3% to 5%.
A lot.
It is a lot. However, when we're doing the BRR strategy, we're looking to acquire properties that are uninhabitable. So these are properties that don't have a kitchen or don't have a bathroom. And then If they are uninhabitable, you don't pay stamp duty on them. They're exempt. So that's one way that we can get around stamp duty tax, and that's something we are actually looking to do now. I mean, for us, if we are going to take on a BRR project, it can't have a kitchen or a bathroom, because in our area, if we're buying a house for 250,000, what's 12.5 grand, 5%?
Just on tax.
Just on tax. So we're trying to avoid that at all costs at the moment.
Yeah, because that one is quite a large increase on it, really. I don't understand why it's really been brought in, if I'm being honest with you. It's a massive increase for property investors. So if you can't go and find an unmortgageable property, then, unfortunately, you have got a really big increase.
Well, I mean, that's just another downer on the buy-to-let strategy, because you already had a large initial investment to get into that strategy. But now they've increased stamp duty from 3% to 5%. It's even more money that you've got to put on your top line. So that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, actually. And that does kind of put more of a damper onto the buy-to-let strategy. Now, buy-to-let's been around for that long. Everybody knows about them, but they don't necessarily work at the moment. As property investors, we want to be able to acquire properties for as little as possible, or next to a zero as we possibly can. But if you're going to go and do a buy-to-let and you've got to put £50,000 a deposit, then you've got your increased stamp duty on top to go and gain £500 a month on your rental as a profit. It doesn't really seem worth it.
£500 is a bit generous.
That's quite generous,
being totally honest. We know people that are actually losing money now. So
yeah, and that's quite hard, If you think about the landlady that we used to have within Coventry, she's got 15 houses and she's living off her savings. How does that work?
I know it's outrageous, but they are all in her personal name.
They are. So there is things, again, there's things that you can change, there's things you can adapt, and unfortunately, she has gone about it the wrong way, where, that is the case. And if that's another point. If you don't know what you're doing in this industry, things will go wrong. You will lose some money. So it's really, really crucial to make sure you know exactly what you're doing, and how to combat certain issues, because they will pop up just like everything. But, with property, you're not just, as a business, you're not just selling £10 supplements online on an e-commerce basis. You're playing around with hundreds of thousands of pounds and sometimes millions. So, in some cases, you just need to know what you're doing, have the right team, the right people around you that can help you elevate your game. Because if you don't, unfortunately, things will go wrong.
No, yeah, you're dead right. But there's actually been some other changes as well. So furnished holiday lets, so your serviced accommodation taxes have been removed. And now they're actually bringing it down to the standard rates, standard residential rates in 2025. Now, I believe this is coming into fruition in April. I think it's April 1st, 2025 that these are going to be coming in. So I suppose that's a bonus for people that are doing the serviced accommodation model. Yeah,
well, there's been a lot of talk around the serviced accommodation at the model at the moment anyway, hasn't there? There's been some changes that we thought were coming into fruition but didn't, and it's kind of a little bit all up in the air. And I do get it, because if you look at the demand of the housing market at the moment, unfortunately, we can't meet it. It's pretty much impossible to keep meeting. So, but with service accommodation, because you can achieve a much higher percentage of your profit if you go down a service accommodation route, depending on the area, depending on the deal, obviously, but rather than doing it to a single let, which I've just previously mentioned. So obviously that was looked at as a whole really within the UK to think, right, well, this is kind of not helping with this demand issue that we're currently having. So I believe they were discussing putting some sort of regulation in, maybe equivalent to an Article 4 of HMOs, but for service accommodation. I think they were actually on about doing it as planning permission, weren't they, to try and really cap the amount of service accommodation units in one area at the moment. But I don't believe anything has kind of, actually adapted onto that. So I don't think anything probably will at the moment, especially not under this new government anyway.
Amazing. But what one benefit to come out of this October budget is an extra 3.1 billion has been allocated to smaller developers to actually help with the housing demand and to help support the smaller developers. So that's great for property investors and developers all over the country, because it means we're going to be able to actually go out and get finance to finance our deals. I know you can get 100% finance at the moment for ground up developments. So they are making it a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you're a developer at the moment, you're kind of laughing. That's the sweet spot within property at the moment. If you're a developer, then things are going to go in your favour. because we all need houses. So they're not going to kind of, scrutinise developers at the moment because they're genuinely solving a purpose. So if you can, get into that side of the industry, you are going to be laughing at the moment. So there's loads of things the government, introduced to make sure that this demand can be kind of helped in a way, obviously like permitted development, etc.
Well, another thing, they're actually reducing Article 4 in some areas.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, to actually help with the demand, because we need to build a house every 2 seconds if we want to match the demand, and that is just impossible. We're never going to do it. So I know the government are giving councils standard housing targets they need to hit by a certain date to actually help with this demand, and then they're helping funding these developers. So they're doing the best they can, and with reducing Article 4, it's actually opening up a lot more rooms that are going to be available for people. But I know some people just don't want to stay in the rooms, but in some cases, like Nottingham, where they have actually reduced it, the demand just isn't there at the moment because these developments that are going up, all the students are going into these developments, and now all the professionals are in the HMOs.
Yep.
I mean, we did a bit of market research not too long ago, and Nottingham is washed, absolutely washed for HMOs. So I'd actually stay away from that area, if I'm being completely honest with you, because unless you can really undercut the market or really stand out with your property, you've not really got a chance, to be honest with you. And especially these old rundown HMOs that people are still charging top whack rent for, they're never going to get filled. So now we need to start looking at other strategies and other things we can introduce to actually help these landlords.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in what you're saying. I think this is actually a big thing for most people to take away from this anyway. If you are currently in property and you are in a large population city where there's a massive student demand, I think this is starting to happen more and more now. So as Kyle mentioned, when we started investing in Nottingham to begin with, the HMO market, which is the one thing that we specialised in, it was kind of split. So half of it would be to students because there was a massive student demand there, and the other would be working professionals. So therefore, it did create a demand because the students were always looking for more housing, and so was the professionals. But there wasn't the housing there to offer, so therefore there was a demand. Now, what's actually happened is some developers have come along and started building up purpose-built developments within the area for students, and they've got like cinema rooms, gyms, bars, football pitches. They're all singing, all dancing. They're amazing. So as a student, why would you not want to live there? So, and that's the case. They are wanting to live there. So they're all starting to move into these purpose-built developments. But what's now happened to the HMO market? It's had a negative effect on it because all of them HMOs that were open to students, the landlords are now worrying because they can't understand how they can diversify with the market. So they're either exiting or they're trying to then get it to working professionals. But as Kyle has pointed out, that's not the case. It can't really work like that because, unfortunately, the demand has now changed. So there's more HMO properties available for working professionals than working professionals need. So everyone's got the choice of where it is that they actually want to, go and stay, which is then had a massive effect on the market because people can't fill rooms. So the point to what I'm saying is just by having these purpose-built developments come up within a city, in our case Nottingham, I know it's happening in Coventry as well. I don't know about Leicester as of yet. I imagine it probably will do.
The demand isn't too bad in Leicester.
Demand's still there.
I feel like Leicester with HMOs, you can still get away with it at the moment.
Yeah.
It's quite a hot spot, and Article 4 isn't as dominant as it is in Nottingham.
Yeah.
So Leicester's a great alternative for investors nationwide that are looking to invest in the Midlands. Leicester, Derby isn't too bad, but Leicester's a great spot.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But what I'm saying is that a lot of these major cities are starting to now have these purpose-built developments. So if you didn't already know about it and you live in, say, Manchester, Liverpool, them kind of areas where it's going to start to really come in, it is going to change the market. So if you are, investing in HMOs and you live in a major city where there's a student demand, just be careful and watch out for this change within the market because we've seen it in our area and it is now going to be spread across.
Well, I suppose the way to combat this is to really make your HMO stand out.
Yeah.
Really offer all the services that other people don't. Make sure you've got en suites, make sure they are to the best standard and make sure they are priced competitively.
And the marketing.
I feel like that is absolutely crucial. Yeah, and going back to your manager, if your manager isn't marketing the property correctly, make sure they do it. Even if it means you providing the photos, go out and get a professional photographer to go out and take these photos for you because it will make the difference.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Amazing. So the last thing we do just have to cover is the Bank of England have actually reduced their interest rates down from 5% to 4.75%. So it's not a massive decrease. However, it is a decrease.
Well, it's a bonus swapping out the rest of the budget, let's face it. So
That's it. Amazing. So another thing that we've actually noticed, and I know we touched upon it earlier, is property investors are actually increasing their interest into hotels and into blocks of apartments to actually house these asylum seekers because they are coming over. It's not going to stop. I mean, I think the first week of Keir Starmer being in charge, there was 100,000 illegal immigrants coming across the border. So the government are actually advertising on their website for these guys to come over. They're going to get a free house. They're going to get paid out of our money, out of the taxpayers' money. So for us and for property investors, right, instead of moaning about it, let's benefit from it. Let's actually get a slice of the pie. Mm-hmm. So we've actually seen a bit of an increase in hotels and blocks of apartments. Everyone's looking to get hold of them at the moment because the rates are unbelievable.
Yeah,
they are paying some crazy, crazy rates, but the compliance on the side of it,
it's quite heavy, yeah.
It's quite heavy, and the government aren't afraid to cut the contract at any cost. So if they do cut it and you've got a hotel full of asylum seekers, you can be left with a sticky situation, to say the least.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right in what you're saying, to be fair. And social housing is blew up recently. It's always been around, but for some reason, only in the past maybe year plus, we've started to see a massive increase in everyone wanting to do social housing. But there is that demand there. So it's not too late at the moment to be able to jump onto something like this because it will make you more money going down that route than, going down to a single let, for example.
And it is such a wide umbrella as well. There's
Loads.
so much to it. There's temporary accommodation, children's care, people for drug misuse,
Disabilities.
involuntary homelessness, disabilities. It's such a
Vulnerable
wide...
adults. There's loads.
There's such a
so
wide
many.
umbrella. So there's so much opportunity within social housing and temporary accommodation. It's just getting educated, make sure you've got the right compliance in place, and you know what you're doing, essentially, because you don't want to get stung. Amazing. So one thing we are going to cover is HMO management tips. Now, at our peak, we had about 65 tenants through the rent-to-rent strategy. So we're going to be covering some HMO management tips that we have learned personally through experience. I mean, Tom, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one on the list is correct vetting. Please pay attention to this, okay, because this is quite a big one. If you get a bad tenant in your property, you are going to know about it. All right. You could have an 8-bed HMO. You only need one bad person in there to bring the entire house down. Okay. Let's just say you've got one tenant that's not paying you for whatever reason, but the rest of the house then clocks onto it and he's still allowed to live there. Then you might just genuinely end up having a house where you've got no income coming through. So the vetting is the first tip that you need to make sure that you do. Now, you can go down the route of like the NRLA. It's £21 to go and get a reference check, okay? And that will be able to tell you everything that's wrong with a tenant or right with a tenant. But having the right people in there is key. Don't just throw anybody in there because you might have a personality clash. So you really need to make sure that you match everyone up in the property as best you can, because if you do that, then you're not going to have anyone leave. So if you're throwing any random guy in there and they don't all get along, then you're going to have a high turnover of people. And the whole idea is to see if we can get these guys to stay for the longest time possible, because therefore we don't need to remarket, we don't need to advertise, we don't need to do viewings, we don't need to go through the whole tenant onboarding process if these guys are just staying there and you've got recurring income coming through.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, one massive thing is just simply not to mix students with professionals.
Yeah.
And if you do have a property and you do have someone in there from a social housing or a temporary accommodation company, don't get them in there with your professionals, because one bad apple can bring the entire house down. I mean, we had someone that was quite disruptive. Don't get me wrong, flew through all the referencing. Really, really nice bloke.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on.
Are we?
Yep.
Amazing. So,
Yep. Stay on top of compliances. So, your fire regulations, there's loads of different things you need to make sure, especially in HMO. The licensing's up to standard, your EICR, your risk assessments, okay? It needs to be compliant. Now, if you're doing it on a rent-to-rent basis, that responsibility doesn't really lie with you unless it does. In some cases, they can transfer it over to you to stay on top of. If it's not up to you, okay, just make sure it's done. because if your property's not compliant, you can get in a whole world of trouble, especially if it's unlicensed. If you've got an unlicensed property, there's an unlimited fine. I think, what was that, the article I showed you, when was it, a couple of months ago, and someone got fined, I think it was £30,000 for having an unlicensed property, and he was made to repay all of his tenants that were in there, their entire rent back for the whole of their stay. Wow, that is not something that you want.
For a landlord.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I mean, another massive point is keeping clear communication with tenants.
Yep.
I think it's basic, but it's so important.
It's effective.
It's so effective as well. I mean, one thing we did is we just simply made WhatsApp group chats. WhatsApp chats for every single person in there, even had your cleaner in there so she can update the tenants on when she's going to be arriving. But clear communication is absolutely key, because instead of you having to message these people individually, you can just go stick it in the chat. Everyone's going to be able to see it, and then everyone's going to be able to communicate.
They also build relationships up within them chats as well, which is the one thing you do want to make sure that if you can help it, you do. Because if these guys are getting on, then there's no reason why they'll want to leave. So, yeah, I'd 100% recommend the WhatsApp chats. We also had it in some of our HMOs where they actually become friends. They were going down the pub on a Friday. It'd be quite funny because you'd sit in the WhatsApp chat and they're like, oh, is anyone coming shopping? I'm going to go do my weekly shop at Morrison's. Anyone want to come? I'll give you a lift. And it's like, all right, yeah, fair enough. I quite like it. And they all got along. And because they got along, they never left. If you've got a house full of people that are now friends, then why would they have a need to move out?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. And then another thing, keeping your property maintained to a high standard is absolutely fundamental. I mean, the importance of having a good cleaner, because a cleaner can perform spot checks on every visit. Equally, they can't go into the rooms without notice. However, the cleaner's going to be able to go around all the communal areas and make sure everything's in working order and everything's being kept to a high standard as well. Because if you fall off for a couple of weeks with your cleaning and the place starts getting messy and it's an 8-bed HMO, that mess soon builds up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then these people, and it starts reciprocating onto the tenants as well, and they start disrespecting the property. But if you keep it to a high standard, even getting the HMO rules there as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And keeping them on it, and obviously telling them about it, and actually making it very, very clear when they move in to follow these rules, to clean up after themselves, to make sure they're not leaving anything out, make sure they are putting the pots and pans away, make sure they are cleaning the dishes. These are certain things that you do need to make these guys aware of.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Them HMO house rules will save you a lot of time, because there's a clear policy there that they have to follow, and it's just basic stuff. But take it from us, sometimes people that live in HMOs don't understand basic stuff. Wash up after yourself. Don't annoy tenants. Little simple
Don't
things.
Be loud and disruptive.
Exactly. But if you've not got that in place, trust me, that will happen. But then there's no structure there to have a conversation or to prevent it. So if you've got the HMO house rules that when they move in, once you've done the tenant onboarding, which I think we're going to discuss a little bit later on as well, to make sure that it's 100% perfect, then you run them through the rules, make sure they understand, and make sure they understand the consequences. Okay, because if it's broken, you can introduce a fine, for example, or there could be might have a three-part warning to eviction. So make sure they understand if they break these rules or don't comply, there is consequences.
That's it. And then finally, setting aside money for unexpected maintenance and vacancy periods. This is key, okay? So if your property's making you or bringing in £2,000 a month, stick £200 of it into a savings pot and just let that build. Because if you have someone move out for 2 months, or if a window breaks, I know you can charge the tenant his deposit. However, you've got that cash reserve there for unexpected maintenance and unexpected voids. Yeah,
it's key, because especially, say for example, you start getting trigger happy with your bank card, which as soon as you start seeing the money rolling through, it's quite easy. I've done it, and right at the beginning of your journey, you're seeing thousands of pounds coming through, and it's like, shit, this is nice. But then you're splashing it because you're thinking, well, I can live a little bit of a better life now, and that's just, I think it's a phase you have to go through. But say for example, it gets to that, and your maintenance comes up, and you think, shit, I can't even pay it. So you just make sure you keep it aside, okay? And ideally, don't be trigger happy with your card. Kind of understand to, make sure that you're being very, very smart with what it is, the money that you're getting through for your HMOs, but just keep it to one side, because you never know when a cost is going to occur, and you want to get these fixed quite quick. Happy tenants stay. If you're dragging it all out and you're a bad landlord, then where are they going to go? They're not going to stay with you, are they? So if you can make that whole process for them and stay in there as easy and as simple and as livable as possible, then it's only going to be you that reaps the benefits from that.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you're a good landlord, it's going to make them be good tenants as well.
Yeah.
If you're ignoring the messages, if you're not staying on top of maintenance, what gives these guys, like, if you put yourself in the mind of a tenant, yeah, I'm paying this guy to live here. However, he's not fixing my shower. The cleaner isn't coming round. Fuck him. I don't care. I ain't going to follow his rules because he's not reciprocating it to me.
Exactly. Cool. So let's go through a Q&A. We did it last time. It went really, really well. We had some fantastic questions. And if anyone does want to get involved with the Q&A section within our podcast, just make sure you jot your notes down. Make sure you send us your questions in that you want answering. And, you might have a feature on here for the next episode. So question number 1 is from Shanice. How would you evaluate risk in a property deal? What a good question. Do you want to take this?
Yeah, I can take it. So it depends on the deal, first and foremost. It depends on the strategy, what you're doing. I think the main thing is market research, okay? Market research and running your numbers correctly. And if you've done your market research and it still works, there's your first green light. And then it's all in your numbers, okay? It's facts, not feelings in this game. If you fall in love with a property, however, the numbers just aren't there, leave it. Just leave it and go and find another one, because there's loads of properties out there. There's an abundance of properties. You just need to go and find the one that works, okay? I don't care if if it looks less appealing, but in my refurb, I can get it for cheaper and the numbers stack, I will do that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you have to kind of break it down to say, right, what's the worst case, what's the likely case, and what's the best case that could happen if I take this property on. But it all comes down to your market research. Like we pointed out earlier, if I was going to go and get a HMO in Nottingham, I'd be doing the same market research that I have already done to understand, is there a demand there? Can I fill the rooms? If so, how quickly can I do it? All right, and who do I need to kind of beat in this game to make sure that that's achievable? It's the way you got to think about it, okay? You can go a bit deeper and looking at the economics within the area. So if we're doing it to working professionals, okay, well, what's the employment rate? What's the unemployment rate? Okay, so you're basically getting an idea of how much of your demographics out there. And
What's the development plans in the cities as well? Is there any large-scale developments? Are they building more houses? What's the rental market like? Are properties renting? Are properties selling?
Yep.
These are all things you need to take into consideration. And one thing you can do is just actually speak to professionals from the area. Go and phone letting agencies. Go and phone estate agencies, because these will give you all the information that you need. Just ask the question, or just simply take a drive around there and speak to locals.
Yep.
Go into the shops, ask them, do you get many students around here? Is it mainly professionals? What's the demographic like? Drive around at night time. If there's girls in short skirts, avoid it. If there's drug dealers on the corners, avoid it. These are all things, because them areas...
Unless that's your demographic.
Yeah, because them areas are going to attract people. So you need to think to yourself, if you're in an affluent area, that's going to attract affluent people. If you're in a lower grade area, that's going to attract lower grade people. So...
There's also no reward without risk. I wanted to make that known. So if you're not very risk averse and you can't understand when to take the risks, then you're not gonna level up. You're not gonna grow, because you're gonna be constantly stuck in the same position you are. If you are ever feeling comfortable, then you are not growing. You need to feel uncomfortable, because then you're outside your comfort zone. Okay, that's when you're gonna start to really elevate yourself. So you need to be looking at risk. And you need to understand whether things are going to go well for you or bad for you. We had it before. We was going to enter into a business venture, and it was a lot of money up front. We were willing to do it, and we risk assessed the whole situation. And it was a straight 50-50. 50% we was very, very rich. 50% we was completely bankrupt. But the risk was further than that, because there was hundreds of rooms that needed filling for this other business venture. But the demand was there, but it was kind of drips and drops. So we looked at that as a whole and said, well, we're very risk-averse people. We haven't got to where we are now today without being risk-averse. But for us, that was just stupid to take on. So we didn't. So you just need to look at yourself when you're evaluating the risk to think, what happens if this goes wrong? If you've got a tenant in and you've got a mortgage payment of £700 a month, right, well, what happens if you don't pay me? What's my contingency plan? What happens if I can't fill this room? What happens then?
Risk assess everything. And like you said before, look at the best case, worst case, and likely case. Because
that's the best way to kind of understand it, because you can then write it down, see it black and white, and think, right, well, which way is this going to go? Rather than you looking at something. For example, remember the first rent to HMO we took on ages ago, the one in Nottingham. The rent on that was nearly £3,000 a month. Now, we were only really, really young at that point. So for us to take on a responsibility of being able to pay £3,000 consecutively every single month, it was more than the average monthly income, which is £2,500. So for us, we had to look at that as the whole risk. Well, what happens if we couldn't fill the rooms? Well, then we're going to have to pay out £3,000. But luckily for us, we risk assessed it correctly and it worked out. It was an 8-bed HMO and I filled the rooms in 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, that goes back down to the market research, because in Beeston, the area in particular that we are talking about, there was only 5 rooms available and there was 80 people looking. So the demand was there. And if we didn't have it, we had cash reserves to cover the next month's rent. Okay. Now, that was the risk. Do we take it on and risk not filling it and having to dip into our cash reserve? We took the risk, but it paid off. We looked at the best case, worst case, likely case, and the likely case was we was going to fill it in time. And we did. We filled it in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Shanice.
Amazing. So Adams asked, have you ever had to evict a tenant? If so, how have you had to do it? Yes.
Which one?
Which one? We have had to evict a fair few tenants, but we're going to go over to the chap that I briefly went into earlier. An absolutely amazing bloke, really, really nice, paid on time, flew through all the referencing. However, he loved to drink. Okay, as soon as Friday rolled around, Friday till Sunday, he was on the vodka non-stop. He was on the vodka lean as well.
It was impressive. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Seen it with our own eyes. We turned up to do viewings at 11 o'clock Saturday morning, and this guy was still drunk. This guy was still drunk, still sipping vodka, still being Larry, still being disruptive, banging on tenants' doors, causing a havoc. And that goes back to that one bad apple as well, doesn't it? Because he could have potentially brought that entire household down if we didn't action the eviction, which we did. Well, funny enough, we didn't actually evict him. We got him to surrender his contract. So we used something called a surrender and settlement agreement, where we essentially bribed him out. So we gave him... It's a legal bribe. So we gave him his month's rent back for free. We helped him find alternative accommodation, and he surrendered his contract.
Yeah. Now, rather than going down, because everyone thinks, I've got to evict a tenant, I've got to do a Section 21 or Section 4, then, Section 8, sorry, then you don't have to. They're just the ones you know about it. But the problem is they're so long-term and pricey. We looked at it with this guy. He was only on a 6-month contract, and if we went to go down a Section 21, then it was going to take 6 months to do, and probably a couple of £1,000 in legal costs to action. We thought, well, by the time we've done that, his contract's up anyway. So we kind of had to get a little bit creative. Now, for people that don't know what a surrender and settlement agreement is, like Kyle turned around and said, they're surrendering their right to their permanent contract, so their AST, but for a settlement agreement. So there's a reason why they're doing it. Okay. Now, you can make that blank bit of paper anything that you want to make it attractive. But for us, obviously, we just had to go and give him his rent back. But what you can also do is that contract is enforceable from when they sign. So if you wanted them to move out in an hour's time after, you can go ahead and do that. Like, we gave him 2 weeks to go and move out and find a new place, and it was absolutely fine. But the key to this process is being relatable and understanding. So rather than going into the property all guns blazing, don't do that. This is how we did it. So going back to the HMO house rules, they were clear as day on there, okay? There was no getting drunk within the property. If you wanted to drink, you can go outside or you can have a few drinks in. It's a professional household, not a student household, okay? So that was rule number 1. But unfortunately, as most people know, when you've had a drink, the rules do not matter. And he was breaking 4 or 5 rules, disruptive, banging on doors, annoying tenants. Like I said, he was a really nice guy when he was sober. Just when he was drunk, he was annoying as hell. So anyway, we ended up going over. We had multiple conversations with him to say, look, this needs to stop. You're breaking the rules. We even gave him a fine. He paid it, and it still carried on. So we were like, right, okay. So we went over to the property. He was drunk as anything, which actually I think made it a little bit. It actually did make it a bit easier. So we went outside with him, and he kind of knew. I think he did know, and we just kind of said to him, "Look, if I'm being honest with you, I don't think you're right to live in a shared house. I personally think you need to, have your own home place to stay. I think like a nice little studio or a one-bed apartment where you can go and do what you want to do, and you're not getting in the way of anyone else or anyone's getting in the way with you." And he was like, "You know what? I think you're right. I think you're right." And I'm thinking, this is going really well. This is quite simple. So we started going over and said, "Look, unfortunately, what is going to happen now is we're going to be issuing you with a surrender and settlement agreement. Off the basis of what we've turned around and said, we will help you go and find your own place. I wouldn't recommend going into a HMO." And so he was like, "Okay." So we said, "Look, we're going to give you 2 weeks notice to go and get your things together and vacate the property. And in the meantime, we'll give you your December's rent back and we'll make sure you get your deposit back." So he lived December pretty much rent-free there anyway. He was absolutely fine. To be fair, he was more apologetic than anything, weren't he?
Yeah.
Again, I think he was emotional because he had a neat bottle of vodka. He was about halfway down. So I think the emotions were starting to come out. But he's a great guy. And to be fair, I think he actually went and moved back into a HMO. So he was someone else's problem at this point. That's the thing. You just need to get them out. If you've got a bad tenant in there, we've had a few. I could sit here and show you videos for absolutely hours, but I'm not going to do that because you need a strong stomach for some of the stuff.
Great question, Adam. Hope that answered it.
Are you open to partnerships or mentoring new investors? Catherine, of course we are. Always open to joint venture opportunities or partnerships. At the end of the day, the property community is fantastic. No one's ever specifically competing against each other. There's that much opportunity in the market. There's that many houses to go and make a profit on. Everyone's just supportive and clumps together and helps you. It's a fantastic network to be a part of because everyone wants to help you level up and grow. So therefore, we always want to do the same for other people. So if anyone is open to partnerships, wants to come into doing a project with Kyle or myself and the rest of our team, then of course we're going to be open to that because we're here to make money. And so are you, Catherine, at the end of the day. So I'm sure that's the reason for asking that question. And then the second part of it, are we mentoring new investors? Yes. This is a thing that we are currently focusing on at the moment alongside our other investments, which is training people on our blueprint, how we've done it. Because what we've done in the market is we've taken the strategies, but we've created our own mini strategies inside of it, which what we've brought out into the market actually doesn't exist in regards to what it is that we're doing for, new investors. So absolutely, we are mentoring new investors. The ones that we are doing absolutely fantastic. They really are. They're all doing business together. There's so much going on at the moment within trade property in terms of our education side of things. It's fantastic to see. We've got some brilliant people in there that are strong mindset, that are wanting to succeed, and that's exactly who I want to work with. So, Catherine, if that is you, and you have got that mindset and you want to change your life and you really want to do something, then you're the kind of person that I actually want to work with.
Well, it's a great mix of individuals, isn't it?
Yes,
Male
brilliant.
or female.
All ages.
All ages. Different business owners. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, one thing that we do preach as part of trade property is if you invest in us, what's stopping us investing in you guys? I mean, we are actually in the process of doing a couple joint ventures with students at the moment, and these are things that you don't see, that you don't see in the education platform. So it's great if you guys wanted to come and leverage our expertise or leverage our investors
or our network.
Come and join Trade Property, and we're more than happy to help you out and work together.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I think we're trying to get people to go the distance and get started within property, but we also want them to level up with us. So, of course, we're going to be offering, things like partnerships so we can work together, so we can, not only increase our financial situation or our portfolio growth, but also you guys is coming into the industry as well.
No, yeah, absolutely correct. It's a place where you're not only going to grow as an individual, you're also going to grow financially as well. So that's one of our many USPs.
Catherine, what I'd recommend to you is we host a free webinar on a Wednesday evening about 7 p.m. and that's consecutively every single Wednesday. So if you do want to kind of understand, what it is, what trade property actually is, and what it is that we can do for you, then just click the link below in this podcast, and it will be able to take you onto our registration site where you can come and register for the webinar.
Amazing, great question. Ben, what's the best investment strategy to go down? So it depends on your situation. It depends where you are financially and where you are in your property journey. I mean, if you're a business owner that's cash rich and time poor, you can go and outsource these things to deal sources. But if you are a business owner that's cash rich, I wouldn't recommend going down a rent to rent strategy, because it's not really worth it, because rent to rent is made to get you out your job. That's what we feel like the primary...
Or scale up for a contract.
Or scale up for a contract. But that's what we feel like the primary reason rent to rent is, unless you are looking to scale up a large social housing contract, or you're looking to be the next Premier Inn. I mean, for you, it depends on your situation. It depends where you are. If you've got little to no money, start deal sourcing. Offers great transferable skills. You're going to learn every single strategy inside out. You're going to learn how to sell, how to negotiate, how to network, how to close. There's so many things that go into deal sourcing, how to spot opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. To be fair, Ben, the best way I can describe this for you is how property works. It's like a ladder system. Okay, so if you've got no money, you're starting off on the bottom step, where we can go deal sourcing. We can, sell some deals to get some money coming through. When the money comes through, we can go and fund our rent to rents. That's the next step on the ladder. As soon as our rent to rents are cash flowing and we've got return on our investment, then we can go and then fund BRRs or flips. And it works up like that. Now, how you enter into the market depends on your financial situation and your time, essentially. And more importantly, what it is you actually want to do. So it all comes down to your situation, Ben, what it is that you want to achieve. Maybe you want to achieve generational wealth. Well, if you want to start building a portfolio that you can then pass over to your children, and then their children, then you want to be looking down the buy, refurbish, refinance side, or your lease option agreements. That's probably going to be the one for you. Like Carl said, if you could try and scale up a contract, rent to rent might be for you, because you can get them, up and running very, very fast, 2 to 4 weeks, £5,000 investment to go and scale it up. So it all depends on your situation, what it is you want to do. You might be a builder. If you're a builder, then going into doing a flip or something to build some cash up might be right for you. So if you want a more in-depth answer, Ben, I'd just recommend reaching out to us. We'll take some time and we'll help you understand which strategies can be best for you, how you can scale it up, and put you a bit of a roadmap together for you, bud. Okay, what's the process for onboarding new tenants? That's from Ryan. I'm guessing he's currently going through the process himself at the moment. So first things first with onboarding new tenants. So the onboarding process really starts after the viewing. Once you've done the viewing, it's all good. So how we used to structure our onboarding process, I will share it with you. So first things first, what we'd do is we'd take £100 holding deposit after the viewing. This would secure the room. We'd not do any more viewings on it. It was theirs. And then we'd go through the referencing process. So as I mentioned, we use the NRLA. We used to pay £21 to go and do. The tenant then fills out their application online. Once it's done, it takes about 2 to 5 working days to come back, depending if there's anything extra that they need or any documents, etc. When that comes back, if that's okay and they've passed, they will then choose a move-in date that works for them. On the date of moving in, they pay their first month's rent and their tenancy deposit. But the one thing to remember is if you're going through and doing it on an AST contract, then it needs to be secured in a deposit protection scheme within 30 days of coming into your bank. Now, let me just skip back to the holding deposit for 1 second. Now, that holding deposit there is a security deposit. If that tenant pulls out of that process voluntarily, then it's non-refundable. If they fail the referencing checks and you decide that they're not a tenant that you want in there, you can then go and refund it, etc. So if they pull out, not refundable. If they go ahead with it, you keep hold of it. Now, what we used to do with a holding deposit is we'd say, okay, we would put it towards your tenancy deposit. So let's say their tenancy deposit's 500 quid. We would then charge them 400 and put that 100 towards it for the holding deposit. And then we'd obviously go and then put it into a protection scheme. So once that's all done, well, they've moved in now. We're going to get the contract drawn up. We always used to sign it in person because we always used to find that the required fields wouldn't necessarily lock, but you can go ahead and do that. You can go and send it electronically for signature, or you can do it in person. Either way, make sure they've got a copy of it. Then you'll just take the first month's rent, as I mentioned, the deposit as well. And I'd always recommend to them to make sure that if their payment day is the first of the month, they set up a standing order then and there. You can introduce direct debits with multiple different people, but they will take a percentage. So if you are scaling up and you're at a large amount of tenants, to go and have everyone on direct debits, it'll actually cost you quite a lot. Anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I just want to go back to the very, very beginning, the viewing process. So there's a couple tips that you can actually take into consideration when viewing. I mean, for me, it was the little things as well. Okay, so why are they looking to move? How long have they been looking to move? How long have they been in their past residency? Okay, what do they do for work? What do they like to do for fun? And what's your gut feeling on these guys? I mean, we're really good at spotting certain things and understanding certain things. So I was showing someone around a property and he dropped that he couldn't get a phone contract. And I was thinking, right, if you can't get a phone contract, how are you going to pass my reference in? So I didn't eat, and I had a bad gut feeling on him. So that's one big thing. Make sure you trust your gut feeling. Also, little things as well. If your tenant turns up ridiculously late, yeah, I can understand that things can occur and traffic and incidences can happen. However, if your tenant's meant to be there at 4 o'clock and turns up at 4:30, it's just unprofessional. Okay, these people are coming to actually have a look at a room, and if they're wanting it, you need to take all things into consideration.
Yeah.
If he's late to a viewing, can he be late? Yeah, can he be late for payments? These are things that you need to take into consideration.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. What challenges have you faced with tenants or property management? That's from Wendy. Do you want to go?
Yeah, so, well, just referencing back to the past tenant, we had him. We also had someone who decided not to pay rent for a great length of time. Yet again, this guy flew through all his references, but there was something that wasn't quite right with him. He wasn't quite there. I don't know really how to put it. He had some issues, to say the least. He was going through quite a dark patch in his personal life, and he couldn't pay rent, and he didn't clean his room at all, and everything picked up, and it literally turned into a hoard house. Okay, I remember
horrendous.
when the toilet was blocked, the shower was blocked, the sink was blocked,
And got sick in the
I don't know how someone could quite literally live in there. But if he reached out to us and kept that communication and said, look guys, I'm going through a bit of a dark patch in my personal life, I'm going to struggle to pay this month's rent, am I able to, put a bit of a payment plan in place just to help me get through this period? That's fine. We can work with people. However, this guy decided to block us on pretty much everything. The only way we could go and speak to him is if we was taking viewings on another room and we happened to bump into him. It's the only way we managed to get hold of him, but he didn't pay rent for 4-5 months at least.
Yeah.
And he wasn't someone we could get hold of. He wasn't someone who would have been willing to sign a surrender and settlement, but he did manage to get out in the end. We didn't actually use a Section 8 on him. So
Just expired, didn't it?
yeah, everything just expired, and we just told him that he had to leave, and he just left essentially.
But that's a good thing, because we'd actually, I remember, he had the only key that we had to that room, right? And I went round, I was doing some viewings, and there was a doctor that was due to turn up, right? And I'm thinking, right, he had the nicest room in the property. So I'm thinking, right, okay, he's told me he's left it nice and clean. He's told me he's left it unlocked so I can go do viewings. This will be all right. And it was the only one we had. So I've gone in, tried to unlock the door, it's locked. I now understand why it was locked after seeing the state of his room after he left. And I'm thinking, I need to show this guy his room. This is the 4th time now he's told me he's left it unlocked, it's tidy, and it's not. So I got out the massive bag of keys we've got, emptied it down. I've tried majority of keys, thinking that there's got to be one in here that opens the door. I did find it. There was a key that opened the door, and that's really when I seen it. I can't even explain to you the state of this room. And I'm thinking,
I mean, the people that was at the accelerator last month, they seen it.
Yeah, we've shown them the video, to be fair, and their faces were pretty much like mine, yeah. And so I've opened the door and I'm thinking, shit, I've got to go and show this guy around this room. And this room was lovely before he took it on. I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? So I thought, right, lock the door, put the key away, job done. He turned up. I was like, I'm ever so sorry. The gentleman that's in there at the moment, he's actually gone out. He's only got the key. And I apologise for the inconvenience. However, look, let me show you a quick virtual tour that I've got on my phone of the room, some past photos. I think it's exactly what it is that you're looking for. He was a great guy, really good tenant. So I showed him this video, and like I said, the room was really nice. Showing him the video, showing him the photos. He was like, can we not have a look in there? I said, look, I physically can't get you in. I'm really sorry. I can't get you in. And he was like, look, I really like the room. I'll take it. He paid the £100 holiday deposit then in there. And the day that we'd got that tenant to move out, he'd moved in the same afternoon, which was eventful because I personally, when I took Kyle over and I tried to explain to him the state of what I've seen it in, thankfully I'd managed to sell the room without even showing it to him.
He wouldn't have took it.
He wouldn't have took it if I'd have shown, if we had have opened that. And we went round, and it was Kyle's first time actually seeing the room, and I thought to myself, I respect my cleaner too much to even get her in here to do this. I can't get her to do it. So
we had to get someone out. We had to get a plumber out though to do the bathroom. That's
yeah,
not something
No, I couldn't have done that.
No,
I could not have touched that.
that.
Well, no, I cleaned the bathroom. That was actually, that was me that cleaned it. But
Well,
the toilet,
not the toilet of a sink or
no, I couldn't have done that.
no chance.
I couldn't have done that. So there is some challenges that you will face with tenants. Now, the best way to actually combat this is, like Carl said, make sure you do your referencing, get a good feeling, ask them the right questions, keep in contact with them, but change the contract. Don't have them on an AST, because with an AST, it gives the tenants so many tenant rights. I would highly recommend using excluded license agreement. It changes the classification from a tenant and a landlord to a licensor and a licensee. So basically, in a nutshell, what this means is they've got no tenant rights. It's the equivalent of you going to stay in a hotel and you deciding not to leave that hotel, okay? They can just get you out. So what this is like I said, it gives them no tenant rights. If you want to evict them, you only have to give them a 2-week notice to do that. It's quite a ruthless contract, I'll be honest with you. It even specifies in there that if they don't take the belongings, you have the legal right to burn them. Personally, I think that's a bit too far, if I'm being honest with you. But I would recommend using that contract, because if you do have problem tenants, then at least you can get them out.
Well, the only downfall to that contract is if your tenant requires a parking permit, they're not going to be able to get one with an excluded license because it's not recognised. But if you've got free on-street parking or a drive, you'll be absolutely fine. Amazing. So, can I get into property with no money? And that's from Chloe. Yes, of course you can. You don't need money. You just need the education. You just need the knowledge. Yep. That's all you need. Then you need to learn all the strategies, essentially, and then go out and find deals, okay? Go out to the market, speak to people, speak to agencies, go into letting agencies, try and get rent-to-rents, try and get BRRs, try and get below market value buy-to-lets. And then you've got the first part of it. You just need the second part of it, which is the network, which is the investors, okay? Yeah. So then you need to go out, put yourself where the money is. High-value gyms, restaurants, aero clubs, golf clubs, okay, in these affluent areas, and just start speaking to people. Start speaking to people, let them know what you do, because people with money and business owners are nosy, and they're not afraid to chat, okay? And they're more than happy to help out, especially what we found as well, being so young in the industry, is the older guys, once they see that you're about it and you know what you're doing, they're more than happy to help. They're more than happy to get on board and give you a helping hand and actually work with you.
Yeah, no, they do. To be fair, Chloe, that's exactly how I got into property. So when I went to go into it, I had minus £50 in my bank account. I knew property was my vehicle that was going to take me to my goals, and it has. But I was in the same position as you. I had nothing. So as I mentioned, went out and started deal selling. That then obviously funded the properties, which funded more properties, which was how we scaled up. So yes, you can get into property with no money. You don't need it if you don't want to. That's exactly how I teach. So I teach how to do it organically, so with no investment at all. But even to this day, I do not use my own money. If I'm going to go and buy a property, I don't use my own money.
Amazing. What advice would you give to someone starting out in property investing, William? William, great question. Get action and education. Make sure you get educated. I mean, I can take you back and tell you the story about when I first got into an investment industry and strategy and lost everything. Okay, so when I was working on site a fair few years ago now, it was a bit of a hype, cryptocurrency. It still is. Don't get me wrong, I've earned a lot of money through cryptocurrency investing, and I've also lost a load of money. So I saved up about $7,000 to go and start a business, okay? And I heard about this wonderful magical coin that can make you rich. Now, I decided to go all in with it, absolutely all in, put everything into it, and within the space of 2 weeks it was down 90%. So it went from 7,000 down to £700. Now in the long run I didn't lose any money because I never pulled out. I just waited until it went up, but that was a good 4-year process, okay? But it ruined me, okay? And that was all due to a lack of education. So what I did when I next got paid, I went, screw this, I'm going to buy some courses and figure out where I went wrong, figure out if I can rectify my mistakes. And I couldn't. The only thing I could do to rectify it was play the long game and wait. Okay, so it turns out everything I did it backwards. I shouldn't have made any of the moves I made. I was taking information from someone who'd never done it himself. I just bought into it, okay? And then I learned the hard way. So what advice would I give you is to make sure you get educated or get yourself around professionals that know what they're doing. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of ties into Chloe's past question about obviously having no money going into property. Again, obviously I didn't have any money, as I've just mentioned. So, but I knew that I needed to know what I was doing. I couldn't do it on my own, otherwise I'd never make money. I'd always lose money. So I bit the bullet. I went and got a loan out for £10,000 and I got my first property mentor, which, trained me up and helped me along the way to be a part of where I'm at now at the first instance of it. So the advice, William, is just get educated, take action and get results. Okay, that's actually our tagline, but it is actually true. Taking the action and actually getting into the industry and being hands-on and learning from other people that are where you want to be will genuinely elevate you. But don't be afraid to go and get some sort of mentorship, because let's just look at it, right? We go through school having a teacher that teaches us something that, that they're good at. Okay, that's why they're doing it. And then we want to go and be a plumber. We go and get somebody doing an apprenticeship, or we go and get a teacher that knows about plumbing to go and teach us. The same as if we want to be a doctor. We go to university and learn how to be a doctor. So we always have mentors throughout our journey, but all of a sudden, when we then fall into business, we forget all of that. And we think, well, I can do this on my own. And you can't. You genuinely can't. You need to have a mentor every single step of the way. Jeff Bezos has a mentor, okay? Let me just let that sink in. Has a mentor. Everybody needs a mentor, right, to go and be successful at something, because they know something that you don't. And the only way that you're going to tap into that knowledge is if you go on board with them and start working with them. Yes, I've spent, if I'm being honest with you, I've spent £81,000 on mentorship and training. Well, to be fair. But look at where that's got me. I've made an ROI on that. So if you don't have the mindset or being able to open up your mind, okay, to something like that, then unfortunately, people like me and Kyle are going to beat you at every hurdle because we've got that one head start. Hope that makes sense.
Does make sense. I mean, the best investment is yourself, and the second best investment is property. I mean, it's absolutely fundamental because you're learning from people who have already done it. Okay, so you're bypassing all the mistakes that they made and that you could potentially make. I mean, we've got mentors. Our mentors have got mentors. It's just a cycle that you have to follow. And now we mentor people.
Yeah.
It's just one of them cycles that you've got to follow. And it's something that's fundamental because you could lose everything. You could lose all your money. You could lose all your assets. You could lose all your friends, all your family, but you can never lose what's going on in here, what's going on upstairs in your mind. Okay? So this education that you're investing in is going to benefit you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not going anywhere. As soon as you've ingrained it into your mind, it's not going anywhere. That's why you are the best investment, okay? So if you're looking to buy a course on negotiation, buy it. If you're looking to buy a course on property, buy it. If you're looking to buy a course on communication, do it, because it's all going to play a massive, massive part into your success and to your growth as an individual. So self-education is massive. Investing in yourself is massive. So to go back to the question, get educated.
And don't let arrogance come into fruition with it, because if you come in and you're arrogant and you think you know everything or no one can teach you anything better, stay at home, mate, because that's the day you fail. The moment you let arrogance take over is genuinely the day that you fail. So come into something like a sponge. If you're just getting started in the property industry, surround yourself with more experienced people, learn from them, build your network up. Your network is everything in this game. Hope that helps.
Phil, what is your favorite investment strategy? So it's a great question because my investment strategies have now changed. Okay, so one time rent to HMO was my favorite investment strategy. One time deal sourcing was my favorite investment strategy. Now I like lease option agreement and the buy, refurbish, refinance strategy. Okay, because they're what we're doing actively. That's what we are doing with our investors. That's what we're doing with our joint venture partners. But I mean, what about you, Tom?
I'd agree with what you've actually just turned around and said there. For us, it was the mindset change. So as Carl mentioned before, rent to rent is where we started out, but it has a purpose. So once we've then filled that purpose, the next stage for us was the generational wealth side of things. Because, and I might get a little bit deep here when I say this, but Phil, do you know what your great-great-great-grandfather's name was? Because I don't. I have no clue. It was just an existence that was, once here. But what about if he'd have actually done something in his lifetime that changed the whole dynamic of your bloodline? So let me put it into perspective. If you went and did a generational wealth strategy like BRR or lease option agreements, just like we're doing and the majority of other property investors in the UK are doing, okay, it's not only benefiting your financial situation now, it's benefiting our families for generations to come. So you will actively leave yourself a legacy and be known as that person that changed your bloodline and helped your family for generations to come. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm very conscious of it. Now, I don't have children myself, but I'm still conscious of it, the fact that one day I am. So I want to make sure that what I do now matters. I'm not just wasting my time. So favourite strategy, it's got to be the generational wealth creation methods, because that's actively filling my purpose and my mission at the moment. But like I said, it depends what you like, Phil. You might not like that. You might prefer doing flips and you might enjoy that. Then that's fine. Because if you enjoy it, then you're going to go further. If you don't enjoy it, then you're not going to do it. And the whole point of it is, to enjoy what it is you're doing, watch your projects come to life, and build wealth.
Daniel's asked, how do you get in the right mindset and what is yours? It's such a massive question. It's such a wide answer. I mean, I don't really know where to get started. First thing you need to do is look at what you're wanting to achieve. Look at what your personal situation is now. And I'm going to get really, really real. You are where you are because of you, okay? If you're not happy with your job, you applied for the job, okay? It's your fault. So you need to start taking accountability into your, take accountability into your mindset. If you're not happy with, well, I can go back to an example. I didn't like bricklaying. I hated it. But who did I have to blame? It was me who went for the interview. It was me who accepted the job offer. So it was only me who can change it. Tom?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The whole mindset thing is really, really broad. I think there's two types of people. There's people who think and there's people who do. If you're one of these people that go to bed every single night dreaming about a better life but wake up and forget about it and never action it, then you're never going to achieve anything. If you're the person that has them dreams, like me, I'll go to bed and some nights I can't sleep because my mind is actively racing about how I can level up, how I can make more money. But the thing is, the next day is actioned. I've done it. So that's realistically your two different types of mindset that you really need to focus on. So first things first, put yourself into the category. Now, the former mindset of the doer is the one you want to be and is the one that your competition's doing. So it's about how we can beat our competition in this game, okay? Because for me, I work 7 days a week. I work till when I wake up to when I go to sleep, because I know that my competition out there is also doing the same. And if I don't, then they're going to beat me, okay? Yeah. So it's about understanding. It's about understanding which category you're in, okay, and then it's elevating it from there. There's loads of things you can do. There's podcasts you can go and listen to. There's seminars you can go and attend that will really, really help you change your mindset and the way that you view things. Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the competition, your biggest competition is the man in the mirror, okay? Yep. Biggest competition is you, because if you're not willing to make change, if you're not willing to take action, guess what? You're going to lose, okay? You're not going to get anywhere in life. So you need to wake up, take a long, hard look at yourself in the mirror and say, right, who do I want to become? And how can I become that man, okay? Do I want to get smarter? Okay, read more books and educate yourself, buy courses. Do I want to change my attitude and be around better people? Okay, change your environment. Get around people that are in the position where you want to be, okay? But to get there, you need to add value, okay? If you've not got any value to add, you need to introduce a skill into your life to add value. Become an expert marketeer, become an expert salesperson, become expert at property investing. There's so many things that you can do to add value. Become an expert editor, become an expert cameraman, okay? These are things that you can do to add value.
Yeah, and I'd also be looking at, who's aiding this mindset. Because if you can't change it yourself, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who have you got in your network that can help you level up or change or adapt your mindset? You know, there's a massive saying that you're a sum of the 5 people you hang around with. If you hang around with 5 losers, you're going to become the 6th. If you hang around with 5 millionaires, you will become the 6th, okay? That's true. So look at your network, look who you're surrounding yourself with and think, do I align with these people? Will they support my goals, or will they be a barrier to where it is that I want to go to? And if that is the case, then you need to look at broadening your network up. And you need to see, who can I now surround myself with that shares a similar mindset, and start working with them and start spending more time with them. Okay, everyone's got a purpose in this life, whether you've got friends that are good for drinking with, or friends that are good for, you know, doing business with. Everyone's got their own purpose, and that's okay. You just need to realize that and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that, you know, are similar to yourself. But like I said, mindset, you need to firstly realize and wake up. Secondly, try and adapt it. So put yourselves in the right environments, doing a lot of education, you know, watching podcasts, watching things that are really going to help you change that. But don't forget it, because it's very easy to action something in the first instance and not be consistent, and then it drops off when you go back to your original life. Okay, That is the most common thing that happens. It's very, very uncommon for people to be consistently adapting themselves. For me, the second part of this question is obviously what is ours and what do we do? For me, every single minute of my day is accounted for. I know exactly what it is that I'm doing, and every single day I'm a better version of myself. Whether that's through, you know, learning and development, training. For me, we in the evenings, once we've finished working, it's all self-development. It's all more training. I still buy training to this day. I still do it, and I'm still leveling up. But that's what I mean. If you can look at yourself right now and think, well, I want to be where you are, it all starts with what's going up top. And looking at me as your competition, if you don't adapt your mindset or do something today to come into the market to compete with me, okay, you will lose.
Yeah, and then just to add to that, I mean, one massive thing about us, accountability. You need to be accountable for your actions, okay? Discipline, consistency. For me, they are the 3 biggest things.
Yep.
Self-belief's in there as well, but if you think you are right, what's the saying? Accountability, you need to be accountable for your actions. So if you didn't go to the gym, why didn't you go to the gym? If you didn't read the book, why didn't you read the book? Consistency, you need to be consistent because consistency gets results, okay? Going to the gym once a week for 4 weeks, you're not going to see any change. But if you go to the gym every day for 6 months, you will see a change, okay? Every equal has an opposite.
Yeah,
okay?
It's having people there to keep you accountable. Like, obviously, we're business partners. We've been friends since the age of 13. We grew up together. So, you know, we're more than business partners. We were friends beforehand. But it's like the days where if I wake up and I'm not necessarily feeling going to the gym, who's keeping me accountable? The days where we'll wake up and, you know, might not want to go in the ice bath, who keeps them accountable? So it's having people there that will consistently stay on your game. If you can't yet program yourself or tell yourself that regardless of the circumstances, this is what I need to do and do it, then make sure you've got someone there that can keep you accountable.
And also, just to add to it, motivation is a load of bollocks, okay? Motivation is nothing. It's 2% of it, if anything, 1%, okay? Because every day you don't wake up motivated. It's discipline that's going to get you to where you need to be, okay? So if my schedule is go to the gym for 5 days a week, but on the second day I'm not motivated to go, discipline is going to make me go to the gym, okay? And then afterwards, that's when I'm going to get the reward. And then staying consistent with that discipline, okay? Here's a really, really good tip, okay? So this is what one of my old nutritionists told me, and it's something I'm looking to implement now. It's a traffic light system, okay? So you can get a calendar, and you're going to mark the day off at the end of the day, green, amber, or red. Green, everything was ticked off. You went to the gym, you did some self-development, you went for a run, you networked with the right people, you spoke to 5 clients, you spoke to 5 new leads, okay? That was a green day. That was a good day. Amber day, you might have missed the gym, you got some of the things in, you read your books, you didn't speak to as many people, you didn't finish your emails, but you did complete something, okay? That's an amber day. It's not as good, okay? And then red days, you've completely cocked up, you've not gone to the gym, you've not done any work, you've lounged about all day, that's a red day. Look at the calendar, get as many green days as possible, and then that's when the law of compounding is going to actually take place, and compound results will take place. So over time, if you can get as many green days as possible, you're bound to win, okay? And setting yourself up for success as well, because if you struggle with weight, don't have cake in the house, okay? If you struggle with drugs, don't hang around drug users. Simple as that. Set yourself up for success, okay? Make sure when you get out of your bed, you make your bed in the morning, okay? Set yourself up for little wins every single day. Make sure you only buy the right food. Make sure you only hang around with the right people. It's setting yourself up for success that plays a massive, massive part.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go into our versus topic. So what this is it's where we've got two topics that are as controversial as the other, or are positive equals, and we're just going to debate them. We're just going to really understand what they are, what's the positives, what's the negatives, and what's the answer really. So first on that list is interest-only mortgage versus mortgage repayment. Which one is better? I'm going to start this one out, okay? Both of them have got two different purposes. Now, if you're living in a house yourself, you might want a mortgage repayment. So what's a mortgage repayment? It's where you're paying off the interest and the principal loan at the same time. Because someone that's living in their own house, they might want to pay their mortgage off at one point, okay? Now, if we're going to be a property investor, we might want to look at an interest-only mortgage, okay? So what's this? It's where you only pay off the interest every single month. You don't pay off the principal loan. Now, the one thing to note is once the interest has been paid off, the principal loan has to be paid in full, okay? But that's okay, because that's where refinancing comes in. So we can refinance the property, because at that time where the interest has now been paid off and it's now time to pay off the principal in full, that should have given you enough time to see the market increase through capital appreciation, where we can go and refinance at a new value and therefore pay off the principal with a new interest-only mortgage. So benefit to doing interest-only mortgage is your payments are going to be basically split in half each month. So therefore you can achieve a much higher, rental income. So you've got more profit coming through. So as an investor, personally, I use interest-only mortgages. But if you were going to go and live in a house, or you wanted, for whatever reason, to make sure that that mortgage can be paid off at some point, then a mortgage repayment is going to be better for you. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of property investing is to stay in debt, okay? Keep the debt. Debt is good when it comes to property investing. So interest-only mortgages are the best ones, because you're going to earn more through your rental income. And when it comes to the repayment, you can just refinance, okay, and keep that debt. So our aim is to die with debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
You look at Robert Kiyosaki, he's in about $5 billion worth of debt. But that $5 billion of debt makes him more than that. So it makes sense. Now, I'm going to just obviously quickly go into debt a little bit to also help with the realization and maybe a mindset shift towards debt. We're told from such an early age that debt is bad. Stay away from debt, okay? But what you don't understand is there are two types of debt: bad debt and good debt. Okay, going to buy a car or going to buy a holiday or getting a conservatory built on the back end of your house and getting a loan for all of that is bad debt. Why? Because it doesn't make you any money. Where if we're going to go and buy a house, that's good debt, because the money that we're putting down for the house makes us more money back. So there's a fair value exchange there. So when you're next going to go get yourself in debt, realize something. Is this actually making me a liability, or is it going to be an asset? Is it going to make me money, or am I going to have to pay out money? Okay.
Amazing. So the next one is self-managed versus fully managed. Now, at the start of your journey, I definitely recommend managing it yourself, because you're going to get an understanding of what you need to do, okay? And then if you do look at going managed, you know what needs to happen and what the manager needs to do, so the manager can't pull the wool over your eyes.
Which is very common in this industry. Unfortunately, there's a lot of incompetent, managers out there at the moment. So being able to understand the process for yourself through self-management at the beginning, you're going to understand what that process looks like, rather than just giving it to a letting agent. Amazing. So I've got another point to be fair. So at the beginning, when you're obviously, did you want to go?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, to answer the question, self-manage at the beginning, unless you've got a recommended manager and you haven't quite got the time, so if someone's recommended this management company to you and it's got good reviews, you're getting a good feeling from them, do it, okay? You can go for the managed. But if you're at the start of your journey and you're looking to understand the processes in and out, go through a self-management option at the start, because it's going to give you that sort of benchmark of knowledge to take into the future.
Yeah, it also depends if you want active income or passive income. So if you actively want to be working and doing it, that's fine. We did. So you'll be hands-on at the beginning. Versus if you want it completely passive, then you're going to want to go down the fully managed route anyway. Okay, so it depends on your situation. Like I said, if you're going to scale it up, I'd just go down the managed route. The one thing to take into consideration is they will take a percentage of your turnover as their management fee. These can range depending on what strategy it is that you're doing. Only go with agents that have been recommended to you, or you know they're going to do a good job. Because like I said, if you've got a bad manager, it's going to then have an effect onto your tenants, and it's going to have an effect on you because you're going to have a high turnaround of people. Now, also take that percentage into consideration, see how well your portfolio is actually doing in regards to income. If you can't warrant giving that percentage to an agent, then you're going to have to go do it yourself. So you can save yourself a little bit of money. But this also, I'm going to go a little bit off topic here, but this also takes us back to understanding what you're worth as well. So you need to be able to work out what your hourly rate is. And if doing that job, okay, is, payable by someone else, or is, below your pay per hour, then make sure you don't do it, because then you're bringing yourself down a little bit to go and do, versus giving it to somebody else and you having that time back to go and improve your business. Another thing you can do is, if you are self-managed at the beginning and you understand the process very, very well, then when you do start to grow, and rather than giving a percentage of each property, you can pay someone full-time to come in and manage it. So they can come in and do the management, deal with the communications, the issues, the rent collections, the viewings, the advertisement, that whole side of the business. And you might actually be saving yourself some money. But the key thing about that is, if you've already self-managed at the beginning, you're going to know the process. You're going to know what it is that you need to do, what it is you don't do. So therefore, you can train someone up to be another version of you, rather than going out on a limb trying to find, agents and, testing the waters and bouncing from company to company to company until you...
Just add to that. So if you're doing rent to rent, I'd recommend self-managing, especially if you're doing HMO, because it's going to give you a great foundation of knowledge and you're going to be earning more money. Okay. So if a HMO management company is taking 12%, that's going to eat into your profit unless you've got an absolute diamond of a deal. Don't get me wrong, serviced accommodation. We do know a lot of people that do rent to SA and rent to HMO that have got managers, but it all works back to the numbers. If it's viable to take on as a managed property and you want to do that, feel free to do it. However, if you're doing rent to rent, I'd highly, highly recommend self-managing. It's going to work out a lot better. You're going to learn all the skills. You're going to earn more money. It's definitely recommended to self-manage if you're doing HMO. If you're a busy business owner who's cash rich, time poor, and you're looking to build assets and add to your portfolio, look at getting a manager and look at scaling accordingly.
Okay, finance versus own capital. Which option to go down? Okay. Personally, I use finance. As we've already mentioned earlier, debt in property is good. You want debt to be your friend, okay? As long as the deal stacks and you've assessed the risk of going down that route. Now, I wouldn't recommend going down a finance option for a flip, because let's just say you go and bridge it, okay? You're going to have to pay that bridging back at the end, and it's on a high interest, repayment. But what about if you can't sell it? Then the risk is there. Versus if you're going to go do a BRR and you wanted to bridge it for that, then that's fine, because you've understood the risk assessment and that's paying it off via the refinancing at the end with a mortgage. So that's okay to go and do. Now, I basically turn around and say that if you've got the capital in the bank, it's up to you. It's up to you if you want to invest your own money. Personally, I don't. I use other people's money. There's various ways we can do that. And if you are already a part of Trade Property's education platform, then you're going to understand how to do that too. So it comes down to your situation. 1, can you get finance? 2, do you even want to use your own capital?
Yeah, I'll add to that. I completely agree with Tom, if I'm being totally honest. We preach, don't use your own money, okay? There's multiple ways you can go.
That's how we teach as well.
You can go about not using your own money, okay? So if you are doing a BRR, raise the capital to qualify for bridging finance, then use bridging finance to pay for the house and pay for the refurb, and then once you've refinanced, pay everything off. If you're looking to do a flip and you want to dump your own money into that asset, you can do, because the asset is now stored in property. The equity is stored in that. So unless the market crashes, and if it does, it's not going to go down by a lot, okay, you're not going to lose much money, okay? But if you've got a bridging loan for a flip and you can't pay it back, you can potentially screw yourself. So if you're looking to do a flip, buy it cash, buy it with your own money, okay? And if it does take 3 or 4 months to sell, it doesn't matter, because you've added the value, you've increased the equity within the property, and now it's just sat there waiting, ready to be transferred. That is it. Anything you'd like to add?
No. Amazing. So thank you everybody for tuning into episode 2 of the Trade Property Power Hour. If you have genuinely enjoyed this episode, then make sure you follow it, you download it, and you give us a review. We're also going to be leaving the link below to our Trade Property webinar. This is a webinar we host every Wednesday at 7 p.m. for new investors and experienced investors that want to understand different strategies and how they can level up using our own methods. So I'm going to leave the link below. If that does sound of interest to yourself and you want to level up, then make sure you click it and register your details, and I will see you there.